We're explaining how to fix the program path is missing or invalid error when debugging in VS Code. This frustrating error pops up when VS Code can't find the executable file your debugger should run. Let's tackle this problem step by step. 1. Verify the program path. First, double-check the program field in your VS Code launch configuration file, usually .vscode/launch.json. This field specifies the exact path to your executable. Make sure this path is absolutely correct, case-sensitive, and including the full directory structure. If you're working with a project built in a different directory, confirm your path leads directly to the compiled or interpreted file, like in .x, out, or a Python script. 2. Rebuild your project. If you're working with a compiled language like C++, C, or Go, an outdated or incorrectly built project can lead to this error. Clean your build directory, remove all intermediate files, and then rebuild your project from scratch. This ensures your executable is up to date and correctly located. Your build system, like make, CMake, or MSBuild, will typically have commands for cleaning and building. 3. Check your workspace. Ensure VS Code is actually opened within the correct project folder. If your project files and your .vs Code folder, containing launch.json, are in different locations, the debugger won't be able to find your executable correctly. This is a very common mistake. 4. Examine the launch.json file. The launch.json file is the heart of your debugging configuration. Carefully review the entire file. Sometimes other settings within it might inadvertently interfere with the path resolution. Look for typos, incorrect arguments, or any other inconsistencies. A simple mistake in the CWD, current working directory setting, can lead to path problems. 5. Environment variables. Your executable might depend on environment variables being set correctly. Verify that all necessary environment variables are set both in your system's environment and within VS Code settings. You can check and modify environment variables within VS Code settings, file preferences settings, under user or workspace settings. 6. Restart VS Code. After making changes, restart VS Code. This ensures the changes you've made to the launch configurations or environment variables are correctly loaded. 7. Absolute paths are your friend. It's often safer and easier to use absolute paths in the program field of launch.json rather than relative paths. This eliminates any ambiguity about the location of your executable. To get the absolute path, use your operating system's file explorer to copy the full path of your executable and paste it directly into launch.json. 8. Check for compiler errors. If you have compiler errors during the build process, you won't have a valid executable. Address any compiler errors before attempting debugging. 9. Permissions. In some cases, permission issues might prevent VS Code from accessing your executable. Verify your executable has the necessary read and execute permissions. 10. Debugger selection. Double-check that you've selected the correct debugger for your programming language in VS Code. Using the wrong debugger will naturally lead to errors. If you have followed these steps and still encounter issues, provide more context, such as your operating system, programming language, and the contents of your launch.json file to receive more specific assistance.